There is a small charcoal sachet sitting in the back corner of my linen closet right now, tucked behind the towels where nobody would ever notice it, and it is quietly doing more to protect that closet than any spray bottle of bleach ever did for me in 15 years of fighting the same black spots every spring. I want to tell you something that might sting a little before we go any further. If you are reaching for chemicals every time mold shows up in your closet, you are treating the symptom and completely ignoring the actual disease. So let me ask you the question that changes everything once you actually understand the answer. Do you know why that mold keeps coming back to the exact same corner no matter how many times you scrub it? My name is Judah Chan. I lived in Osaka for 6 years, married into a Japanese family, and spent my first 2 humid summers there genuinely baffled by how spotless everyone's closets stayed compared to the moldy mess I kept finding in mine. I assumed it was luck, or maybe just a newer apartment. It was neither. It was a completely different relationship with moisture that nobody had ever bothered explaining to me back home, one built into how an entire culture organizes small enclosed spaces, not one single trick but a whole quiet system I had never even noticed operating around me until I finally asked. Before I understood any of this, I genuinely believed a closet was just a box you put things in and occasionally cleaned when something went wrong inside it. That assumption cost me 2 full summers of scrubbing the same wall over and over, convinced each time that I had finally solved it, only to open that closet door a few weeks later to the exact same dark patch waiting for me. Quick word before I go further, the old methods my family uses, there is more of it than fits in any one video. I gathered the whole of it into a book you can buy in our pinned comment below. The book is the long version. If you want it, it is there. I will not mention it again. Here is my own failure, the one that finally taught me something. My first rainy season in Japan, I found a patch of black mold creeping across the back wall of our bedroom closet, right behind a stack of folded sweaters I had shoved in there and never touched again for weeks. I did exactly what I had always done back home, sprayed bleach straight onto the wall, wiped it down, felt accomplished. 3 weeks later it was back, darker and wider than before, and my mother-in-law looked at that closet, shook her head, and asked me one simple question I had never once considered. She asked what was actually touching the wall inside there. When I showed her the sweaters pressed flat against that back panel, she did not even look surprised. She simply pulled them forward, away from the wall, and said the mold had never really been the problem at all. So if someone who scrubbed that mold away with real bleach still watched it return within 3 weeks, what makes you think the spray under your own sink is doing anything more than buying you a few quiet weeks before the exact same spots crawl back? Here is what almost nobody explains about why mold keeps winning this fight no matter how hard you scrub. Mold is not actually a cleaning problem. It is a moisture problem wearing a cleaning problem's clothes. Bleach kills the mold you can see on the surface, but it does absolutely nothing about the humid, stagnant air trapped behind your stored items, and that trapped humidity is the actual engine driving everything. Within days of a good scrubbing, if the moisture source is untouched, spores drifting invisibly through your home find that same damp, dark, airless corner and start the entire colony over again from scratch, often faster the second time because the surface you scrubbed is now slightly more porous than it was before. Here is the contrast that matters. The bleach and chemical spray approach is expensive over time, faintly toxic to breathe in a small closed space, genuinely risky for small children whose lungs are still developing, and it only ever addresses what already grew, never what is about to grow next. The approach my mother-in-law showed me costs almost nothing, uses no chemicals at all, and instead of fighting mold after it appears, it makes your closet a place mold simply cannot establish itself in the first place. I want to be fair to the chemical spray for a moment, because it does have its place, the initial wipe down of visible mold before you start a moisture control routine, but treating it as the entire solution rather than a single first step is exactly where so many households, mine included, get stuck fighting the same battle year after year. Here is the counterintuitive truth that reframes the whole problem. It was never about killing mold better. It was about never letting the conditions mold needs exist inside that closet at all. Airflow, moisture, and darkness. 3 things Japanese households have spent generations learning to interrupt inside small enclosed storage spaces, exactly like the one giving you trouble right now. Now let me walk you through exactly what my mother-in-law taught me, step by step, the same system I still run in my own home years later, laid out in the order she actually taught it to me, one closet at a time, over the course of that first long humid summer. The first step is the gap, and it is the single most important thing nobody does. Nothing, and I mean nothing, should sit flush against the back wall or the side walls of a closet. Pull every box, every folded stack, every stored item at least 2 inches away from every wall surface, creating a continuous channel of air all the way around the inside of the closet. That gap alone, costing you nothing but a few minutes of rearranging, is often the single biggest change you can make, because stagnant trapped air pressed against a wall is exactly the environment mold spores are waiting for. I still walk through my own closets once a month just checking for anything that has drifted back against a wall, because it happens without anyone noticing. A stack shifts, a box gets pushed back during cleaning, and the gap quietly disappears again. A friend of mine tried this single step alone, nothing else on this list, in a closet that had grown mold 3 summers running, and simply pulling her stored winter coats 2 inches off the back wall was enough on its own to break the pattern for the first time in years. The second step is elevation. Never let boxes or bags sit directly on the closet floor, especially in the back corners where air moves least. A simple slatted shelf, or even a few inches of scrap wood laid down as a base, lifts everything just enough for air to pass underneath instead of pooling stagnant against the floor, the way it does under a box that has not moved in months. My mother-in-law used old wooden crates for this. Nothing fancy, just enough height to let air move freely beneath everything she stored. The third step, and this is where the actual Japanese trick comes in, is bamboo charcoal, called binchotan, placed directly inside the closet in small mesh sachets. Bamboo charcoal is heated at extremely high temperatures during processing, which leaves it riddled with microscopic pores, and gram for gram, it holds roughly 4 times the moisture-absorbing capacity of ordinary wood charcoal. 2 or 3 sachets, about 100 grams each, tucked into the corners and along the back wall of an average-sized closet, will quietly pull ambient moisture out of the air around the clock, with no electricity, no chemicals, and nothing for a curious child to worry about touching, since it is simply carbon, the same basic material sold for grilling, just processed and shaped for this exact purpose. The fourth step is recharging that charcoal properly, because this is the part almost everyone who buys a bag of it skips entirely. Once a month, take the sachets out and set them in direct sunlight for a few hours. The heat drives the trapped moisture back out of those microscopic pores, resetting the charcoal's absorbing power for another full month. Done consistently, a single sachet keeps working for up to 2 years before it needs replacing at all, which makes it one of the cheapest ongoing solutions you will ever find for this problem, working out to just a few dollars a year once you account for how long each batch lasts. The fifth step is silica gel, the same crystals in those little packets that come inside a new pair of shoes, called Joshitsuzai in most Japanese households, and they belong in the same closet doing a slightly different job. Where bamboo charcoal handles ongoing ambient moisture, a larger tub-style silica gel absorber handles sudden humidity spikes during the wettest weeks of the year, and most versions sold for home use even have a little window that changes color when the crystals are saturated and need replacing, so you never have to guess whether it is still working or quietly full and doing nothing at all. The sixth step is daily cross-ventilation, 10 to 15 minutes, opening the closet door alongside a window on the opposite side of the room, even for a short window each morning. This exchanges the stagnant, humid air trapped overnight for fresh air moving through, and it is the one habit almost every Japanese household treats as completely non-negotiable, rain, shine, winter, or summer, because a closet that never gets fresh air moving through it is a closet slowly building toward mold, no matter what else you put inside it. My mother-in-law opened every closet door in that house for exactly 15 minutes each morning, part of the same routine as making tea, so automatic she barely thought about it anymore. The seventh step is an honest limit I want to give you, because I promised myself I would never pass along advice without the caveat that actually matters. If the mold you are dealing with covers more than roughly 10 square feet, if it keeps returning heavily despite every step here, or if anyone in your household is coughing, wheezing, or getting persistent headaches around that closet, that is no longer a moisture management job. That is a job for a real mold remediation professional. And no amount of charcoal or ventilation should ever substitute for that call when the situation has genuinely gotten there. I want to be honest that nothing in this video makes mold disappear from your life permanently in some magic, one-time way. What it does is remove the conditions mold needs to keep coming back, which is a very different and far more lasting kind of solution than any single cleaning session could ever be. Here is the bigger picture underneath all of this. This was never really about mold at all. It is about the difference between reacting to a problem after it shows up and quietly removing the conditions that problem needs to exist in the first place. My mother-in-law never once mentioned mold specifically when she taught me this system. She talked about air, about never letting anything sit still and untouched against a wall for too long, a philosophy that showed up in how she organized every closet, every drawer, every corner of that house, long before I ever saw a single black spot on any wall. She used to say that a house that cannot breathe will eventually show you exactly where it is holding its breath, and I think about that line every single humid season since. It sounds almost too simple, but I have watched it hold true in closet after closet, mine included, for years now. The wall that grew mold twice in one summer under my old routine has not shown a single spot in the 4 years since I started running her system properly, not because that wall got some special one-time treatment, but because the air around it simply never gets the chance to sit still and stagnant long enough to invite anything in. There is a broader lesson in this too, one that has changed how I think about maintenance in general, not just closets. Most of the problems we fight hardest against, the ones that keep returning no matter how aggressively we clean or scrub or spray, are usually symptoms of some ongoing condition we have never actually addressed, papered over instead of solved. Mold taught me to ask a different question whenever something keeps coming back. Not how do I kill this harder, but what condition keeps inviting it in, and what would it take to simply remove that condition instead? I think about that shift every time I walk past my own linen closet now. Charcoal sachets tucked quietly in the corners, door cracked open every morning without me even consciously deciding to do it anymore. It stopped feeling like a chore years ago. It simply became how a closet is supposed to work. Here is what I want you to do tonight. Open your closet, pull everything at least 2 inches away from every wall, and check the floor for anything sitting directly on it that could be elevated instead. That alone, done in the next 20 minutes, will change more about your closet's future than any spray bottle sitting under your sink right now. If you already have mold showing right now, wipe it down first with a simple mix of water and a small amount of vinegar rather than harsh bleach. Then follow every step here starting tonight, because the wiping only ever handles what already happened, and the steps handle what comes next. Tell me in the comments what your closet looks like after you make that gap. I read every single one, and if you add bamboo charcoal or silica gel because of this video, I want to hear how it goes after your first humid month. If you already have a closet mold story of your own, the kind where you scrubbed and scrubbed only to watch it come right back, share that too, because I promise you are far from the only one, and hearing it from someone else is exactly what finally got through to me all those years ago. I know it feels strange to walk away from a video about mold without a single spray, a single chemical, a single dramatic before and after. That was strange for me too at first, standing in my own bedroom watching my mother-in-law simply pull sweaters 2 inches off a wall like that was the whole answer. But 4 humid seasons later, with a closet that has stayed clean the entire time, I can tell you plainly that the quiet, boring habit outperformed every aggressive cleaning session I ever threw at that same wall before I understood what it actually needed. Next time, I'm going to show you the exact futon airing method my mother-in-law still follows every single week, using nothing but sunlight, a wooden pole, and 10 minutes of her morning. The same method that keeps mold from ever touching the bedding. These closets are actually built to store, and the one detail about timing it against the weather that took me 2 full years to finally understand well enough to trust on my own.